everyone, my name is Emily and I'm an educator with the Virginia Living Museum. And today we'll be learning about observations and how to use our 5 senses. With each one of the senses that we'll be learning about today, we will also do an activity. So these are the materials you're going to need in order to participate. These are the materials you will need: 10 random household objects, 3 smelly objects, a washcloth, 3 bowls, some of your favorite snack, a glass of water, a towel, and a small container. These are all of the materials you will need to complete all 5 of our activities today. So for this first activity, you're going to need the 10 random items that you found around your house. Let me show you the things that I found at my house today. Here are the 10 random objects that I found around my house. We will be using these 10 objects to practice making visual observations. So these are observations that we can see on these objects, and we will sort them into different categories. Let me show you how I did it at first. The first thing I sorted them as was by longest to shortest. So as you can see, my fork was my longest object, while my key was my shortest object. Then I separated them into a group of objects that all had one color and a group that had multiple colors. So if you look to the group to the left, they all just have one color. And if you look to the group to the right, there's multiple colors on each one of those objects. Now that we have practiced making observations using my objects, I want you to do the same activity but with your objects. So you want to make observations based on what you see and sort them into different groups. So go ahead, take a moment to pause this video to complete your activity. And when you're done, press play and we'll get ready to start activity number 2. So in this second activity, we're going to be focusing on our sense of hearing. And we'll be making observations about sounds that we'll be making using our small containers. So everyone who wants to participate is going to need their own small container. Once you have your container, spend some time looking around your house for something you could put in your container to turn into a shaker. So I spent some time this morning and I found some rice. So I've got my rice, I have it inside of my container, and together we're going to practice using my shaker, listening and making observations. All right, you ready? Here we go. All right, I like the sound that rice made. To me, the rice sounded very loud. It was definitely not a quiet sounding object inside of my container. It also sounded very rhythmic, which means it's something I could probably easily keep a beat with. I could just be like, and also I could tell that there was more than one object in here. So it sounded like there was a lot of things hitting the side of the container versus maybe just one object rolling around on the inside. So those are some observations I made with my own shaker. Now is the time for everybody to pause the video and make their own shaker. If you want to take it one step further, make sure you hide your shaker from anybody else who's participating. That way they can't see what's inside, but only use their observations of hearing to try and identify what's inside of your shaker. Go ahead and pause this video and have fun making your little shaker. So for activity number 3, we're going to be learning more about our sense of smell. And we'll be making observations of 3 different items that you picked out earlier with 3 different smells. So my objects that I have with me today are some black pepper, maple syrup, and a lemon. So for part 1 of this activity, you're just going to practice describing what these objects smell like. So for example, let me start with my lemon right here. I'm going to take a nice big sniff of this lemon here. I love the smell of lemons. So some observations I can make is The smell of this lemon is very sweet, so I can tell that this has some sugar, some sweetness to it. Something else that I smelled is that it's very fresh and it reminds me of the summertime. It's tropical. It smells fruity because it is a fruit, and all of those smells are good smells to me. So this is definitely a smell that I enjoy. Once you've done that with all three of your objects, now you're going to test your skills in part 2. So in part 2, one person is going to stay with the objects and the other person is going to walk away so they can't see the table anymore. The person who's still at the table is going to pick one of your scents and put it in a bowl. Once it's in the bowl, you're going to need to cover it with something. So I just have a washcloth. You can use a towel. You can use a piece of aluminum foil, anything so that the person doesn't see what's in here. Then you want to hide the other two smells and ask for the other participant to come back in the room. Now that person, only using their sense of smell, has to try and identify what's in the bowl. So they can lift it up just a little bit to smell, but make sure they're not looking in the bowl. That's not playing fair. And once they've had a chance to smell it, they should be able to guess which one of those three smells it came from. And so when you're ready, I want you to go ahead and pause this video, learn about the smells in part 1, make your observations, and then test your smelling skills in part 2 by hiding the smells in a bowl. And then join me again for activity number 4. For activity number 4, we're going to learn more about how to make observations using our sense of touch. The materials that you'll need for this activity are the 10 objects you collected around your house from our first activity, as well as a towel. So what I have set up right now are all 10 of my objects are hidden under this towel. So one person at a time is going to stick their hands under the towel, but they're not going to peek. No looking. We're not practicing sight observations. We're just using our sense of touch. You're going to slide your hands under the towel and feel around until you find that very first object. Once you found that first object, go ahead and make observations to describe how it feels. So this first object that I found definitely feels very, very soft. So it's very soft and kind of squishy. So I can squish it and I can feel that it moves in my hands. And I also feel like it's very stringy. I can feel individual strands of things throughout this object. What do I think it is? I think it's my ball of yarn from earlier. And it is. So I could feel that it was very soft, it was definitely squishy, and I could feel all of these individual strands of yarn in this ball of yarn right here. So go ahead, take your objects, cover them with a towel, and go back and forth. One person sticks their hand in, makes their observations, take the object out, and then do it again. And then when you're ready, pause this video, do the activity, and I'll see you again for activity number 5. So for our final activity, we are going to learn how to make observations using our sense of taste. So for this activity, you're going to need your favorite snack, 3 bowls, as well as a glass of water. So my favorite snack is just a little snack cracker, and what you're going to need is 3 pieces of them. So if you need to cut it up, you might need to cut it up into 3 pieces. I'm going to put 1 cracker in each one of my bowls. 1 bowl, 2, and 3. In my very first bowl, I'm going to take my glass of water and I'm going to pour a little bit of water in the bowl. Yep, we're going to change the way our favorite food tastes. In our second bowl, you're going to take that piece of food and you're going to smush it up. So if you have something maybe like a piece of fruit that doesn't crunch as easily as a cracker, you might need to cut it up or use a fork or a spoon just to kind of mush it. You basically don't want it to look like it did before. You want it all mushed up into tiny little pieces. And then the last one, you're going to keep absolutely the same. So for this activity, it's pretty simple. You're going to try each one of these bowls with your favorite food and see how the taste changed based on what we did to your favorite food. So to start, I have my snack cracker, and I'm just going to chew it up and see how it tastes. These are my favorite snacks. So some of the tastes that I have are, it's definitely a salty treat. I can taste that it's a little bit cheesy, and I can definitely feel that there's a good crunch in my mouth. So every time I chew, I can feel that crunch, crunch, crunch of a cracker. In my next bowl, I crushed it up. So now my cracker's in little tiny bits of crumb. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to taste it, but in little tiny pieces. Here we go. Well, I definitely don't have to chew that much anymore. I can still taste the salt. I can still taste a little bit of the cheese, but I definitely don't have that much of that crunch anymore because it's already broken into little pieces. And instead, it just kind of dissolves and turns to mush in my mouth without even need to chew. That's kind of interesting. Now my last observation is my favorite snack food, but now it's been soaking in water. Let's see how that changes how it tastes. Well, there's no more chewing to that. That became nice and soggy. So it really got rid of all of the salt. All of the salt went into the water. I have no more crunch because it's all just kind of soggy, and it definitely doesn't make my favorite snack any better. I definitely enjoyed it more when it was dry and crunchy. So go ahead, set up this activity just like I did, but with your favorite food, and make observations about how the changes you made to your food changes the way that it tastes. So go ahead and pause this video, and we'll end with a little wrap up when you're all finished activity number 5. Let's review what we learned today. So we learned what an observation is. An observation is using our 5 senses to collect information to understand the world around us. We also learned that our 5 senses are seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. I hope that you enjoyed all of the activities that we did today. I know I did. And I hope you continue to use your observational skills to learn more about the world. Thank you so much for joining me today and participating in a Virginia Living Museum video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.